Welcome to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, aka CTP. I am your host, Joseph M. Leonard, and that's Leonard. CTP is your no muss, no fuss, just me, you, and an occasional guest type podcast. Really appreciate you tuning in. As Graham Norton would say, let's get on with the show! Hello, everyone. A brief special intro to this week's show. You know, Saturdays I normally have on monologues that are in conjunction with a written article at thelibertybeacon.com. Well, we're working through some issues. So today's show, as well as an occasional other Saturday show here and there, may not be a monologue in conjunction with thelibertybeacon.com as I work to sync and coordinate, juggle before it's news.com, thelibertybeacon.com, as well as now introducing Substack as an outlet for my articles, needing to try to coordinate and sync them all together, and some Saturdays that may or may not happen. So instead, like today, you're going to get what would normally be a Wednesday guest appearance drop. So, just a brief intro to let you know what's going on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Constitutionalist Politics Podcast. Joseph M. Leonard, your host, in case of it's first time anybody seeing. And let me move to the side there. It looks French. It's not Leonard. It's Leonard without an O. At any rate, moving right along. Today would normally be a Saturday monologue show, but as you can see, if you're looking behind the scenes video, a couple other faces appear here. To the right box of me is Adam D'Angeli of RescueMichigan.com. Hi, Adam.
Hello.
And in the bottom box, put him in the bottom corner, Matthew Wilk. How are you, Matthew? And you're a GOP state committeeman, yes?
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. This is kind of a quasi-sequel. Season 1, episode 2, I had like a 10-minute rant about Charlie Kirk going on about the Alaska rhinos and ranked choice voting. And indeed, please go back, listen to that episode. Indeed, the way the Alaska rhinos did it, it's a mess. Now, don't react real quick, because I'm about to say something that at first might get your dander up. I support ranked choice voting if there's a big but that goes with that. If and when it's done as it was originally intended, and some places do it in a closed primary only. And I don't mean a fake closed primary like Michigan, where anyone can walk up and say, oh, I'll be a Democrat today. Give me that ballot. Or I'll be a Republican today. Give me. No, I want you to have to be registered with the state for at least 1 year as a Republican, or you don't touch our ballot, because that's how we get people like John McLean, Mitt Romney, and I love Bob Dole as a person. Great war hero, R.I.P. Bob. But presidential candidate? No. Now, ranked choice primary, closed, real primary, I'm not saying it would have changed it, but it could have changed it. Adam, your initial thoughts on that?
Well, as you said, that's not the way it works in Michigan, and it won't be the way it works anytime soon. So,
yeah,
it might sound nice in certain circumstances to have, it used to be called instant runoff voting, where what it means is you'd rank your choices, and if you were the one that voted for the guy that came in last, your next best choice would be the one that would count towards. But that's not the way this works, and that's not the way it was set up.
Yeah.
It was designed. It's all modeled after what happened with ranked choice voting in Alaska, which was
and also California.
Sure.
What I want ain't what this is, and that's why we're here to talk. Matt, your initial thoughts on that? Again, if it were strictly a closed, none of this jungle general election crap, it's not intended for that.
Yeah, I understand the point. However, like Adam says, that we don't have party registration in this state. If you were following politics in the last cycle around November, you saw a lot of data coming from places like Nevada and Pennsylvania and Florida about how many people in a particular party had already cast a ballot. And how did they know that? Because they knew that person was party registered and they matched up with who already voted. Michigan does not have that. Would Michigan be a better state election-wise if it did? Probably, because what you see is what you do as a party member is you then can do a couple things. You can make sure that your party members get out to vote, number one. And number two, you spend a lot of time, all the states I mentioned, allow for no affiliation or independent. And then we spend our time talking to the independents and saying, hey, this guy's a kook. You don't want to vote for him. And I don't know if I'm going to get you to be a member of my party, but I certainly might get you to vote my way the next time around. So this is not that.
Exactly. That's my point. But I felt I had to say that at the start as full disclosure, because if you do listen to season 1, episode 2, you will hear me say Charlie didn't give you the full story. He was absolutely, positively 1,000,000,000% right about Alaska rhinos wanting to rig the primary for Murkowski and to also keep Palin from a House seat. Is that the way you've seen it, Adam?
Yeah, that was exactly how it was set up. That's exactly why it was set up that way. So in the case of Sarah Palin, what happened was there was this 3-way race between Sarah Palin, Nick Begich, I guess you pronounce it.
Begich,
yeah.
And then this Democrat, Mary Peltola. So what happens is, and this is the way, see, the thing people need to understand is Democrats don't play fair and they're not honest people. So what you'll have is, you'll have the one candidate that runs as the Democrat Socialist of America candidate, the extremist. You'll have another one that runs as the I'm just a moderate, average, ordinary working man Democrat type, who's, of course, actually in his heart as extreme as any others are. But the game plays well with voters. So they'll go, okay, well, I don't want to vote for that extremist, but I'll vote for the Republican and then maybe the moderate as my second choice. Or if I'm a moderate Democrat, I'll vote for the moderate Democrat or the extreme Democrat as my second choice, because the way the Democrats are is they hate Republicans viscerally, whereas Republicans, a lot of average Republican voters don't see things that way. So the way it shakes out inevitably is you'll either get the far left or the middle left. I mean, look at the governor race. You'll have, imagine, we won't, but imagine if we had a ranked choice voting system in 2026 where all the Democrats will vote for the Democrat for their first choice and Duggan for their second choice. Republicans will vote for, most of them, the Republican their first choice, Duggan their second choice. And if not, some of them will even vote for Duggan for their first choice, the Republican for their second choice. So the odds, so the Republican now has 2 candidates to beat. And that's the way it's going to always go. Because in any race you have more Republicans or, say, a libertarian, they're taking votes away from the Republican side, whereas the Democrats are all going to get all of their votes counted. Like, I remember when I was a poll worker in Detroit, I saw Democrats spoil their ballots because they would vote for Democrat and also for the Workers' Party. Like, there was all kinds of stuff like that going on in Detroit. Well, when you have ranked choice voting and your vote counts no matter what, you can vote for both of them. Oh, well, this is the Democrats' way of avoiding losing races for Green Party candidates and third party candidates being spoilers. All of it works to their benefit. And it works to their benefit for the extreme left candidates. It'll work to their benefit for the moderate left candidates.
Now, 2 things on what you said there. I want to, one, real libertarians would generally pull from a Republican. What I call the modern day libertarians would vote for the Democrat. So in some cases is a wash, but in the case of Trump in the 2020 election, if just 10% of those voted libertarian in the battleground states, it could have shifted, most likely would have swayed that election. And the other thing you said is about the left, the commie fascist sociocrats, as I call them, liars. To not put on my partisan hat, I'm not all rah, 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 hooray for my side and hooray for my guy or gal, as long as they got an R by the name. We got plenty of rhinos, CNOs, and I dare use the hashtag of late, fake MAGA, that I wouldn't trust as far as I could throw either. But now, Matt, what is your next thoughts on this?
Now, I would take it from a different angle. So the discussion is all about this kind of being above board. It's very not. Okay. So, for example, in the same Alaska House race, so Nick Begich lost to Lisa Murkowski in the Senate race, and he turned around the next time and ran for House. And there were 4 Republicans and 4 Democrats, and remembering that the top 4 advanced to their final one. Okay. And so the leader, the winning Republican, was Nick Begich. He waited until after the primary was over, and then the other 3 Republicans dropped out. So what it did was it made the top 3 Democrats. And among the top 3 Democrats was a guy named Eric Hafner. And Eric was, if I have it correct, Eric was a felon that was in prison in another state that had thrown his name in the hat. It is very susceptible to rigging, to cheating. Okay. It is very easy to put another candidate on the ballot in the state of Michigan, for example, to run, this is probably across the country, to run for U.S. House, you need 1,000 signatures. Well, you grab 1,000 signatures for somebody that may not even exist.
That's not really a lot.
That's not a lot. And that person might not exist. And now you're rigging it. Okay. Now I'll give you one great example.
And that's exactly why they want it here, the rig elections, just like the commission ballot initiative for redistricting. It was all a scam by the Democrats to have a commission created that they knew they would be able to control, because the House and the Senate at that time was Republican control.
Correct.
And the districts wouldn't go their way. They saw the success of that, as well as the lying of the ballot B for supposedly to codify Roe into that law. It eliminated statutory rape, which means pedophiles roam free without consequence. What does that have to do with an abortion, other than a pedophile may impregnate an underage girl and then, of course, rush her to a clinic to kill it? But I'm sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah, I was going to say so when keep talking about this particular thing, excuse me, they're not doing it for funsies, right? As Adams indicated, they're doing it. Democrats are doing it because they think it gives them an advantage, and they have tried this lots of places. Interestingly, it's failed lots of places. So in the last election cycle, Oregon and Colorado, those are pretty blue states. They both turned it down. So this is the left of the left wing that is pushing this. In fact, I saw an interesting tweet today, someone who did some legwork, that it is actually in the platform of the Communist Party of the United States. They are pushing for ranked choice voting. If that tells you, and I'm not a big hey, my side likes it and the other side, but this one ought to tell you something.
Yeah.
If communists are supporting it.
Yeah. And again, back to the top of it. If it were indeed above board only for a closed primary, I'd be all on board. But again, this ain't that. And exactly like those other initiatives, I said, the left only does it because they want it. Now, Republican outsiders might also think it's attractive, thinking it will help defeat Rhino insider I've been involved in politics since 78, so people might consider me an insider, but I'm not part of the deep state establishment hack part wing of the GOP in Michigan. So outsiders think, well, hey, it'll allow us to beat those establishment hacks. But as we just discussed earlier, Alaska rhinos did it to protect Marinoski, the insider deep state candidate. This is not what that is about. Adam?
Well,
sorry.
I mean, to start with, you have to understand our whole system of government leans towards the left. It leans towards people that want to spend taxpayers' money, people that want to have power, and therefore the limited government types are always going to be on the fringes. So the result of that, first off, is that the left acts as a more cohesive unit. So suppose you had instant runoff voting, ranked choice voting in a general election, and there's two wings of the Democrat Party. There's the progressives, the far left, and then there's the establishment left, right? On the right side, same thing. You've got the MAGA movement and the libertarian people versus the establishment Republican types. The issue is, okay, the third party voters. The Greens will all bubble in Democrat for their second choice. Libertarians may very well not bubble in Republican for their second choice.
Right, because as I said, a lot of them are libertarians these days.
Well, but some of them are also going to say the lesser of two evils is still evil and not pure enough for me and yada yada. Whereas the Greens are much more likely to say, I'd rather a Democrat than a Republican, so this way I can vote Green, and then I can vote for Socialist Workers Party for my second choice, and the Communist Party for my third choice, and the Democrat Party for my fourth choice, and they'll all count because I get to vote for all of them. That's the way it's going to work. So it's inevitably going to inure towards the center left, which is what they want. They want to make it so that they will first of all have their center left candidates beat their far left candidates, and they'll also let their center left candidates beat any Republican candidate. And that's the way it's going to inevitably turn out.
Yeah.
And as Matt said, they know what they're doing. The Democrats never pursue any election reforms that are not going to benefit them politically. They know better. And that's exactly where this push is coming from. That's where you see the money's coming from. That's what this is all about.
Absolutely. Now, Matt, before I get your next comments, I have an email from the Oakland County Republicans. As you heard, as we head into summer events and festivals, you'll likely be approached to sign a petition for RCV. Proponents claim it's a common sense reform, but don't be fooled. The OCRP stands with Michigan Fair Elections Institute in strongly opposing RCV. The system is misleadingly marketed as voter-friendly when in reality it's confusing, disenfranchising, and undermines the integrity of our elections. I won't read the rest of it, but Matt, I take it you agree with that, yes? As do I.
100% agree with my good friend Vance Patrick, who penned that letter. I can give it a very easy example for anyone who lives in Southeast Michigan. One of our largest suburbs is Livonia. Livonia is holding a primary coming up in a couple of weeks. All right. Livonia has 20 candidates for 4 seats. How many do you vote for in your ranked choice voting? 4, 8, 12, 16? Who knows? Nobody knows. And it's beyond that. It's confusing to me. Right. It appears to me to be a ripoff. If I walked up and knocked on your door and I said, I got this great plan and all it requires is that you give me $1,000, you'd probably pull out a gun. Okay. You would not believe me. You earned that $1,000 and you're not going to give it away based on what I tell you. Now, how valuable is your vote? Is your vote worth $1,000? You bet it is. It's worth a lot more than that. And they're walking in saying, trust me, this isn't going to take away your vote. I don't believe it, and I don't think anyone else should either.
Yeah, and I also have an email from Darlene Hennessy from earlier before stating on June 27, the Michigan Board of State Canvassers will review the 100-word summary for the petition and place RCV on the 2026 ballot, blah, 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 blah. If you choose to speak, focus on concerns such as, and I couldn't go, but I did write a letter, the dishonest or misleading wording of the proposal, which is true, the fact that it does not clearly explain what RCV is. Purposefully, they don't want to do that. They want to keep it murky and high level and one or two better selling points while they're sneaking a bunch of crap like ballots in the back door via a van at Cobo Center in the middle of the night. Oh, and I meant to say at the top of the show, I hope people haven't tuned out, if they're not from Michigan. This is important for you. Because if they do this here in Michigan, it may be coming to a purple state near you. This is mainly about purple states or even blue states, some red, so they can weaken the red states, strengthen their blue states, corrupt the purple states like they have other initiatives. So this applies to Michigan and to probably you next, and misleading claims that present existing election laws as if they were new reforms. Right, Matt? That's what I wrote in about. You're being clearly deceptive. If A, B, C, and D, but A and B are already in the law, and you're trying to highlight them, that is clearly, purposefully, willfully, malice aforethought, deceptive.
There's no question. If you recall, remember our ballot initiative about voting, and they put out an ad, the left put out an ad that said, this protects voter ID. What they had left out was that it didn't make voter ID mandatory. So they were pushing this ad, and if you looked at the language that they proposed, so you have to have summary language, and it can be no more than 100 words. And in 100 words, ranked choice voting was like 5 of the 100. And we're doing this, and we're doing this, and we're doing this. So they can sell it as this broad reform of a whole bunch of things when the first thing on the list is what they're really trying to get out of it. Right? Yeah. So, and they've done it before, and they'll do it again for sure.
And this to harken back, and most people out of state will not understand this, but it's why I opposed what Catherine Henry put together a few years ago. Michigan had a law that the governor could do whatever under emergency for an X period of time. And Whitler completely ignored it, but the Supreme Court, with one traitor, supposed fake conservative on it, sided with her and let her go. The Catherine Henry thing was yet another thing. Rather than just repealing the Emergency Act and replacing it with simple language, she had like 10 pages of all kinds of shit packed in there. And I'm like, no, let's just repeal the one law, put another one paragraph thing into the Constitution, not 20 different things all crammed into one. Do you remember that, Adam?
Yeah, I mean, this is the problem we always have with these amendments, is that people don't know what they're actually voting for. And I'm surprised the Board of Canvassers allowed it, to be honest with you, but apparently they have, even though I think they've actually admitted, they said we couldn't quite understand what this amendment was calling for.
Well,
usually voters are inclined to vote no on things they don't understand. But
yeah. Well, that
the question of, are we going to have the organized opposition to it that the Democrats are going to have in support of it, because they got Proposal 3 or Proposal 2 pushed through a couple of years ago just because that we were out mobilized, we were outfunded, and they just were able to persuade voters. This is just no big deal. This is election integrity stuff.
Well, the Board of Canvassers were clearly leaning left. smoked, and they wanted any excuse to allow it on. But
there's
like
2 Democrats and 2 Republicans on the board of canvassers.
Yeah, well, are they really
Republican?
Yeah.
No, Tony Daunt is the chair, and he is a very staunch Republican. What they are facing is a 2-2 vote puts it to a local court in Court of Claims or Ingham County, both of whom they couldn't possibly be further left. So the question before them is, do you take your medicine now or do you take it later?
Yeah.
And they want to get this, to have some time to build the money necessary to fight this. And they've got their own, we've got a bunch of ballot initiatives that are out there. I think there were 3 that were approved that day, including taxes on wealthy people. I can't remember what the other couple were, but
of course, taxes increases would be there. The left are always pushing for that. We're already illegally above the state allowed income tax level. Rhino Rick Snyder did that, and of course Whitler wasn't going to undo it. So we're already above constitutional level there. But Adam, to what we were all alluding to, the 100 words, that they put the flowery stuff in the 100 words, and nobody reads the other 400, 500,000 words of the full thing to be deceptive. Yes, Adam?
Well, precisely.
Please elaborate. Yeah.
Well, that's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. If a constitutional amendment does 100 things, like for example, in a couple of years ago, Proposal 3 not only legalized all abortion up until the moment of birth, but it also created an individual right to be sterilized. Well, people didn't know that was in the proposal at all. And anything that's, even if things are in the 100 words, people tend to
nor the elimination of
that actually was in the 100 word summary, and people didn't realize what that was actually calling for.
Neither was the elimination. Neither was the elimination of statutory rape or and that, of course, the slippery slope. We knew it would be pushed to be infanticide post-birth, like what Gosnell is in prison for still in Pennsylvania, birthing a baby on a botched abortion and just leaving it there to die unattended. To heck with the Hippocratic oath of do no harm and treating both patients. And other things that was snuck in that abortion proposal. But again, they sold it as, we're just codifying Roe. But like you said, most people are opposed to abortion up to the point of birth, and especially not beyond, but they didn't listen to what all was really in it.
Well, that's the problem with direct democracies. People vote for things they don't understand. Unfortunately, that's also the problem with the constitutional republic, is that lawmakers also vote for things they don't understand. But that's just kind of the way things go, with a few great exceptions. But for the most part, we pass things and then find out what's in them later.
Right. I mean, look, the thing about it is that probably most of your viewership, they're on the top end of knowledge about politics. Drive down the street. If you're in the 1% and 99 people go by you, they neither know nor care, right? They'll care when things start getting bad, but they don't know and they don't care. Now, for the worry for Republicans is that Donald Trump's not going to be on the ballot ever, okay? So how are you going to get those people who don't care to, number one, understand, and number two, vote? That's a challenge. And that's a challenge that's before every member of our state party, county party, local parties, local politicians, all our challenge.
And of course, the norm of a midterm is that whoever holds the White House party-wise loses seats in the House and the Senate. So we're already having to buck a trend that isn't in our favor. And so, as you say, getting people to understand it so that they then know why they really need to care. And they need to not only just get off their duffs in midterms, but primaries.
Certainly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right, Adam. We lined up with a lot of these, and people will say in November, "Oh, I don't want to hold my nose and vote for." Well, where were you the last year and a half when you could have been working to get a better candidate to win the primary so you wouldn't have to hold your nose in November? But you were too lazy, caught up watching TV all the time to actually attend any meetings, go to a rally, do any real homework on what was going on, right, Matt?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, that's the. I'm not sure rallies help. Bringing your neighbors out helps a lot. There was an effort. It's called 10x voting. You know, get on the phone and make sure 10 of your friends get out. And I think Republicans have to do that again. I think the benefit, the other side of that coin, is that this is a unique scenario. I think most people, most political observers would agree that prior to COVID, Donald Trump was on a path to win re-election, and then COVID took him out. And if the economy does roar, and if the world does stay relatively at peace, and the border stays relatively secure, that's a lot of wins. That's a lot of wins
But
prior to
there's a double-edged sword there. People, oh, yeah, things are going great, and they may get complacent and not show up. Or indeed, we hope they get excited and say, oh, we've got to keep this going. Yes, that's absolutely the part we want. Well, I usually do 30-minute shows. We're going to get a little over here for sure. But I forgot what I was going to say next. I forgot where I was going to go.
To your point earlier, that's why they call them primaries.
Yeah. So, Adam, add anything else you want to add about the RCV stuff, or anything else?
Well, I mean, in general, ballot proposals, when in doubt, vote no. And 90% of them are tax increases, and the rest of them are these highly funded projects for special interests, which is, in fact, I just saw there's another one being talked about. In fact, my former client/boss, Gary Glenn, came up in this discussion, which is that there's a group that's out there calling to regulate speech in politics and to limit the ability of the utility monopolies to engage in electioneering, which I have to say, on one hand, sounds appealing to me because the utility monopolies did indeed spend millions of dollars stolen from forcibly taken from taxpayers to lie about Gary Glenn and to interfere in his election. But that being said, there is no decent motive behind this. And what they're really trying to do, and what this ballot proposal really will do, again how you see how the media will lead people to think this is about one thing when it's actually about another, is they mandate in this proposal that nonprofit organizations, private organizations be forced to disclose their donors and report everything they do as political spending, which is completely unconstitutional, but they're going to still try to do it. They're going to still try to put in the Michigan Constitution. So if it were to pass, you would probably have at least a federal lawsuit, challenging it on First Amendment grounds. But that's what this proposal is all about, is eliminating the ability of citizens to organize and engage in politics, which includes discussions about candidates and campaigns and issues. And one thing that a lot of people forget about these issues is that the origin of donor privacy comes from the civil rights movement. It came from the fact that people were nervous to donate to civil rights causes because they're afraid of being lynched. And that's why the courts recognized that participating in politics includes donating, because spending money is participating in politics, and it's a right to do so, also to do so anonymously.
Correct. And that right goes back all the way to the founding of our country, and the writings, the anonymous writings around the American Revolution. We have a long and storied history.
Franklin wrote under silence do good. I'd like to joke I'm going to write under loudmouth ne'er-do-well, but
right.
My audience knows I can't pass the lame puns. But a couple things what Adam said, Matt. One is that sometimes they can word something as a negative and a no as a yes. They can trick you that way, right? There's a meme I like to share often, and I'll try to remember to edit it into the behind the scenes video for those viewing there. a sign that says vote no. We don't need it. We can't afford it. To Adam's point, yeah, when in doubt, generally better to vote no, but it could be a trick question where the no is actually eliminating something good. So there's that. And I had another thing, and now I've forgotten that too. So at any rate, Matt, yeah, any other additional thoughts on this or anything else?
Yeah, well, to Adam's point, there's always the thing behind the thing, right? You don't need a constitutional amendment to stop DTE and consumers' energy from donating to political campaigns. You just need a law. You would say you can't charge, we're going to dial back any rate increases you want equal to the amount of money you give to political campaigns. And they would stop it immediately. You know, because you don't need a law, why don't they just pass it into a law? And the reason is because all the other stuff that's in there that Adam referenced it can't be done through the passage of a law. It can't be done, period. It's a big issue. People also need to keep in mind that lawfare in Michigan is a real thing, okay? And as well as Trump has beaten that back nationwide and it's gotten quieter, it's still there. And the Democrats would like nothing more than a series of laws that they can enforce when they control every part of the government, which they've done before, and they can go after Republicans to squelch them. I mean, Dana Nessel filed a lawsuit against some of the two of the largest donor people on the right for doing something that the left does 1,000 times a day. There's a group called Arabella Advisors.
Projection always. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a group called Arabella Advisors. What they do is they're a wealthy fund and they get rich liberals to give them money and then they parse it out to one of a million different organizations. In the 2020 election, they spent $1.6 billion, right?
Yeah.
And what do they want to do? Well, we got to shut off what the Republicans do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, to Adam's point, when in doubt, vote no. And in this one, it's a no.
Yeah, all behind the scenes, legalized backroom campaign finance, money laundering, and it just doesn't even touch PACs and things of that nature. And indeed, as you alluded to, I've got a graphic, if I can remember to add that too, that shows most of the bigger corporations are not, they're thought of as, oh, they're corporations. The GOP is the party of corporations or something like that, right? So they all give to, no, the biggest companies are left-wing donors. And I'll try to remember to put that graph in. And indeed, you kind of alluded the old adage, the issue is never the issue. That's only the deception to get you to vote for this underlying garbage like the Inflation Reduction Act. No, it was the Inflation Production Act. The infrastructure bill, it was friends, family, and donors money laundering. It was not a real infrastructure bill after they blocked a real infrastructure bill in Trump's first term. And we've got decaying airports and everything. We need a real infrastructure bill. So I wrote at thelibertybeacon.com, the issue is never the issue. I'll try to throw that graphic into the behind the scenes. So, Adam, wrapping up thoughts.
Well, as I said, vote no. When in doubt, vote no. In fact, almost always vote no.
Matt?
Yeah, I look, if you can't explain it and someone can't explain it to you, don't do it. Simply just don't do it. Your vote is more valuable than your money. If someone did this to you with respect to your money, you never give it away. You're about to give your vote away. Don't do it.
I'm going to go back to the OCRP letter. Claim it's a common sense reform, right? They want to attach the common sense label to all of their convoluted distortion plans.
That's correct. No doubt about it. Absolutely no doubt about it.
Okay, well, thank you both, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. I'm sure there's something we've missed, and in order to really fully explain it all, it would take us 3 hours. We don't have 3 hours.
Excellent.
Well,
Excellent.
thank you both. Take care. God bless.
All right.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
very
sir.
much. Bye-bye.
Good to have.
The Constitutionalist Politics Podcast, normally in conjunction and corresponding with articles, can normally for the Saturday monologue shows be found at thefordsnews.com, Substack, and find extended show notes including related links in the Buzzsprout episode edition of the transcript. Thank you for having tuned in for Constitutionalist Politics Show. If you haven't already, please check out my primary internationally available book, Terror Strikes, coming soon to a city near you. Available anywhere books are sold. If you have locally run bookstores still near you, they can order it for you. And let me remind, over time, the fancy high production items will come. But for now, for starters, it's just you as a very appreciated listener by me. All substance, no fluff, just straight to key discussion points. A show that looks at a variety of topics, mostly politics, through a Christian U.S. constitutionalist lens. So again, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Take care. God bless. Like and subscribe to Constitutionalist Politics Podcast and share episodes. We need your help.